Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Long Gone Loser Rock Show. Today we're going to talk about 90s punk rock singles. Back in the 90s, before Green Day broke in 94, there were so many independent labels out doing stuff and they were just churning them out non-stop. And then when the explosion of Green Day happened and, the bands of the like, there was just so much. Like, bands were just coming out of the woodwork left, right and centre. There was just releases being churned out and it was an awesome time to be into punk rock, or especially pop punk. And me and my friends would buy Maximum Rocknroll, which was the fanzine of the time that I guess was like the go-to fanzine. And I know that I'm not the only one who thinks this, but for me, I used to use Maximum Rocknroll as more of a resource to find out what releases were coming out, because every label was, advertising in there. And we would just, put money, American money, we'd go to the bank, we'd buy some American money, we'd hide it in a gig flyer and send it to the label and hope we got stuff in return. And we always did. But either way, I want to talk about these labels and these records because this was a huge part of me growing up. I love these records, and to this day I still play them constantly. There is just so much good stuff that is out there, and a lot of it you can find really, really cheap, as long as it's not like the heavy hitters, like your Screeching Weasel and your Operation Ivy and stuff like that. You'll be able to find stuff that is like super duper cheap. And that's cool for especially for those who live in America, especially in the Bay Area. You can find Lookout Records releases over there really, really cheap. And I know that because every time I've been to the Bay Area, I've always been managed to fill in gaps in my Lookout Records collection because I am trying to collect every release on that label. But it doesn't stop there because my OCD won't let me stop at that, and I'll have to keep buying every release that's on all of the labels that I collect. So I'm always listening to these records and I love this stuff so much, and I wanted to share with you some of my favorites. This is not every single record that I have from every label on, that was released at that time. I don't have them all out here. It would just take me forever to go through. So what I've done is I've gathered the ones that I really, really like, or were my gateway to finding out about that label. And so if you're wondering why I haven't talked about this release or that release or whatever, I probably have it, but there's only so much time, and, we've got a lot here to get through. All right? So let's dig in. So Maximum Rocknroll was, my resource, and I would always check out those adverts, find out what was coming out. And not only were they a great fanzine, but they also had a record label. And here's just two of the records that are on 7-inch that I have, which is a Bad Religion split with Noam Chomsky. And this is a mega poster information sleeve that just folds out. And if you're wondering what the two Bad Religion songs are, it's Heaven is Falling and Fertile Crescent. So there you go. This is an awesome release that Maximum Rocknroll put out. This dates back big time, and it has so many early tracks by some of the big bands that ended up coming out. Like there's early No Use for a Name on here. You've got Sweet Baby Jesus. You've got Corrupted Morals. You've got there's just so much cool shit on there, and it's a double 7-inch called Turn It Around. This has a lot of the Lookout bands on there. Also, you've got Sticky and stuff like that on here. Which, by the way, that Sticky record is really, really good. But anyway, so it opens up. You've got this like booklet in the middle. It's a double 7-inch. There is the track listing. Like, have a look at that. Like, that is just heavy hitter after heavy hitter. And this is a really good compilation. I do see it pop up every now and then, so I don't think it's actually that rare. But if you see it, grab a copy because it's, it's essential listening. But it didn't stop there. There was just so much going on. And basically what would happen is we had this distribution service that I've talked about numerous times in the show called Spiral Objective. Now, what I did is I subscribed to that, and I would always get the newsletter with all the, the catalog items in there. And basically I would just read all the descriptions and then just pick something that sounded like something I would listen to, which was great. And it introduced me to labels like Shredder Records. This was the very first Shredder release I ever got, which was a compilation called The World's in Shreds, and it features Crimpshrine, Jawbreaker, Moral Crew, and A Priori. Now, this is awesome. And this was my gateway to all of these bands. And I just love this. This was $3 and I bought it and I can't believe like how good the songs on here were. And so I became a diehard fan of all these bands and I had to buy everything. So Shredder, you know, they've released a bunch of these compilations, but I'm only showing you this one because this is the one that really like opened me up to, you know, the big bands like Jawbreaker and Crib Shrine. So, you know, but Shredder just churned out really good stuff. Like here's an EP by Loose Change. Here's Parasites. And another Parasites. This has my favourite Parasite song in it called When I'm Here With You. It was also the very first Parasite song I ever heard. And I loved it immediately. So when I found this, another $3 record, couldn't believe it. This is them doing a cover of Last Caress by the Misfits, obviously, and has Fall For You, a demo version on the B-side, which I actually like more than the album version. By the way, the album is just there. I've been listening to it this week. Really good album. But yeah, so I like this demo version more than I like the version that's on that record. This band, Jolt, was like hugely underrated, I believe. Like this song, Lullaby, was on every mixtape that I ever made for anybody. So if you ever got a mixtape from me in the 90s, this song would have been on it. And this is beautiful splatter vinyl there. And yeah, really, really cool. So there's a couple of singles that they did on Shredder. And then obviously we have these legends. We have two versions of Jawbreaker, Busy. Now, this was the very first one I bought. And I love this song, Busy. I think Busy is one of the greatest songs ever. And then I found this orange one, and I just bought it out of pure curiosity because it was $1. And I was like, man, there's an orange version of it? I didn't even know because, you know, this is before the day of Discogs and stuff like that where you could check what different variants there were. So I just bought it in case it was something different. And it's not, it's just the cover is different. And the McCrackens, one of my favourite bands from Canada, Two Chickens and a Dog. These are the two singles, Life, Hey Mikey and Best Friend. So really cool releases on Shredder. Shredder was a really cool label, and it just from there, like I said, it just snowballed, and I was just buying everything that I possibly could by any of the bands that, you know, were on the labels and stuff like that. Vindictive Music. This is the very first Vindictive Music release I ever bought. It was in the Spiral Objective catalogue, and basically he just said, just like Screeching Weasel or something like that, Chicago punk rock and pop punk, whatever. So I bought this. It came with a sticker. I stuck it on my guitar. And yeah, I was pretty stoked because I fell in love with the Vindictives through this single. I'd not heard them before, but the description was right on. And yeah, so then they ended up putting out another one, which is Assembly Line, which is possibly the best song they ever wrote. And if you've not heard Assembly Line by the Vindictives, you need to do yourself a favour. It's really, really good. Here's another one, Invisible Man. And this one, Screeching Weasel and the Pink Lincolns. One of these Screeching Weasel songs ended up on the CD version of Wiggle, which is the song Going Home. And it also has a song in there called Stab, 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 which is a really unique sounding song for Screeching Weasel because it doesn't really sound like everything else that they've done at that time, but it's still a great song. And the Pink Lincolns, that was my introduction to the Pink Lincolns. Awesome band. They ended up putting out a couple of records or a bunch of records on Stiff Pole Records. Another cool label. But yeah, here you go. Pink Lincolns. If you don't know them, check them out, man. They do a cover of Oh Bondage Up Yours, the X-Ray Specs song that's on this one. So, you know, if you're interested. And there you go. How good is that? Love this band. Screeching Weasel did a bunch of stuff on a lot of different labels, from Lookout to Vermiform to Selfless. And Selfless Records released these two, which is the Punk House 7-inch and this bootleg of a live to air called Snappy Answers to Stupid Questions. I think this one's really hard to find or something. I don't know. It cost me $7, so I don't know if it's really that expensive or really hard to get, but yes, it could be. I don't know. And this is like just fantastic. I love this early Screeching Weasel stuff. It's so, so good. They do a really good version of I Think We're Alone Now on here. It's pretty cool. So, yeah. And there's an early version of Fathead on here, which ended up on My Brain Hurts too. The Queers also released stuff on Selfless Records. This is A Proud Tradition. This is Look Ma No Flannel. And this is Too Dumb to Quit. Going back to the Spiral Objective catalogue, this was another release that was raved about in there because they do a version of A Teenager in Love, and it is really, really good. It was released on a label called Noise Patch Records. Now, Noise Patch Records ended up becoming really cool for me because not only did they do the For Sale record, but they also released a bunch of stuff by this band, Buford. Now, Buford was a band that I got turned on to by Jeremy from Caustic Soda, the Australian band. And he made a mixtape for me, and he had this song on here called Pedal On. Now, I heard this song, I immediately fell in love with it, and I had to buy the single because it was such a good song. But they also did a split with Loose Change, and they got this one here, split with Sleeposaurus. So, Buford, if you don't know Buford, look them up. Really, really good stuff. It's just, you know, I don't know how to describe it. It is pop punk, but it's kind of more melodic and bit emo-ish, you know, that type of 90s emo. Vinyl Communications was another label I became interested in, and purely because of this record here by a band called Cringer. Now, I'm a really big fan of Peanuts and Snoopy and Charlie Brown and stuff like that, so this cover drew me in right away. And I was like, man, what is this? This looks cool. And it was $3 from Thrash Grind and Grunge, and I bought it. And I became an instant fan of Cringer, even though this is not the best recording. It's a pretty raw live recording, but they also had this one there, which I bought the next week. And I've had this one signed by Kamala, who played the drums on it when I went over to the Lookouting. She was there. And I love this record. This record is probably my favourite Cringer record, although they do have a record on Lookout called Karen, which I really like as well. But yeah, this has the song Signals on there, which is just an absolute killer tune all round. Now from Cringer, Lance from Cringer went on to be in J Church. Now J Church have pretty much released a record on every independent record label ever. Like, I don't know how they did it. I don't know how he did it. He just seemed to churn out songs like, you know, like it was nothing. And he released hundreds and hundreds of songs and, like the same, hundreds of records. And trying to collect them all is an absolute nightmare. So here's a couple that I have. Now, these ones are on Broken Records. This song is for Kathy. This was the very first one I ever bought. And I bought it basically because the Spiral Objective catalogue did say it was Lance from Cringer. Now, immediately I was like, okay, well, I like Cringer, so I'm going to like this. So I ended up buying, you know, I've got a few Broken Records J Church releases, but like trying to collect every J Church release is near impossible. I don't know if anyone's actually done it, but if they have, please tag me in it and let me know and show me the collection, because I've never seen an entire J Church collection. I'd love to see one though, because that is an impressive feat if you've got them all. They also did some on Deadbeat Records, which is pretty cool. So I've got a few of those. Deadbeat Records did release a lot of good stuff, and they're still releasing a lot of good stuff. So yeah, if you're interested, Deadbeat Records, head on over and check them out. But I found these all secondhand and stuff. And J Church stuff is out there. It's not exactly rare. There's some J Church stuff that is a bit more pricier than others, but a lot of it you can generally find pretty cheap. And I would recommend, you know, if you're asking which one you should start with, just buy them, man. Like any of them, they're all going to be good. It's not like he ever wrote a bad song. I used to talk to a guy who ran a mail order called Rhetoric Records, and we used to email each other back and forth, and I'd be asking him about records and stuff like that, and I ended up buying a bunch of records off him. And so Rhetoric Records did release a bunch of really good stuff. Here is another Jolt record. This band called None Left Standing here have an EP called Laura. This is a really good one too. This awesome split between Horace Pinker and Face to Face, which is so good. Like, this is really, really good. The face-to-face songs on here are just amazing. So even if they do a cover of Blister in the Sun, which I hate that song, just not a fan of it. I think I've heard it so many times, but face-to-face do a great version of it, so I can't hate it that much. But yeah, and the Horace Pinker tracks, fantastic. Mulligan Stew, another cool band. And then, of course, Zoinks. This is a split with The Gain. So if you've not heard The Gain, well, buy this record, listen to Zoinks and The Gain, and you get to hear both of them. Both sides are great. Well worth having. Oh, and another Jolt record. Man, Jolt records are everywhere. Jolt only released a bunch of singles. I wish I'd done a full-length album or something like that, but they've just got a bunch of singles out. I have them all, but they're not all here on this table right now because, it would, like I said, man, we've only got so much time. Recess Records did a lot of good stuff. This was my introduction to Recess Records. It was The Crumbs, called I Fell in Love with an Alien Girl. This was in the Spiral Objective catalogue, and they were saying it was a lot like The Queers and Screech and Weasel and Vindictives and stuff like that. So I bought it, and that's what turned me onto The Crumbs. I really like this song. The single is a great single, and yeah, I love the cover artwork. I'm really into like 50s sci-fi and stuff like that, so I really do like that. They also did a Dwarf single of Everybody's Girl. I love the Dwarves. One day I will do a video on all my Dwarves collection. The only problem is that, like I've said before, the Dwarves have nudity on 99.9% of their record covers. This is like the only one that they don't, I think. Oh, no, there's one other. Yeah, so it's like, it's hard to talk about them on a channel because, you know, people will complain about nudity because apparently that's wrong. And here is a Beatnik Termite single, which I've got to say, this artwork on the cover was done by Ray from the Hard-Ons. Awesome. Pop Kid Records was a really cool label. They didn't release a lot of stuff, but I do have a bunch of singles. And this is a 7-inch by the band Chester Copperpot. Here's Stark Market, really, really cool, double 7-inch. And Porcelain Boys and Marble. The Porcelain Boys side is good, but I think the Marble side wins this one because they do a version of Holiday Road, the song from National Lampoon's Vacation. And the song Prick is just a fantastic power pop punk song. I love that song a lot. So yeah, they win this battle, but both sides are good. And this is possibly my favorite release on Pop Kid Records. It's a band called Horace Goes Skiing. Now, this is called Domestic Violence, and the first song in here called Input Equals Output. It is such a good song. Like, it is such a good power pop punk song. Like, you need to hear it to understand just how good this song is. So if you were ever a fan of 90s pop punk and you've never heard this before, I believe it is on Bandcamp. So you can go and check it out. Look up Horace Goes Skiing and listen to Input Equals Output. It's just such a good song. They also do a cover of Cat Stevens, Father and Son. Skullduggery Mail Order was another one that I used to buy records from. And they used to release records as well. And so here is this 5-inch record of the Vindictives doing Sex Pistols covers. How cool is that? 5-inch record. So there you go. I believe not all turntables can play 5-inch records, but if you've got a good one, it should. But if you've got one of those old ones where you have to pick up the arm and move it to, you know, for it to start playing, I think that's when they can't play them because they stop automatically. So you need a turntable that's not going to stop. So there you go. They also did this awesome compilation called Banana Pad Riot, which is 4 bands doing songs about the Banana Splits. How cool are the Banana Splits? Everyone used to watch a Banana Splits growing up. I mean, I know I did. I'm sure you did too. But anyway, these songs are fantastic. Look at this lineup. Just look at that. How good is that lineup of bands? Seriously. Boris the Sprinkler? Oh my God. Mr. T Experience, Vindictives, Young Fresh Fellows. Not a dud track on this. This is well worth picking up. And I'm pretty sure it's pretty cheap. So, you know, I don't think too many people are rushing to buy a copy of Banana Pad Riot. So do yourself a favor. Jump on a Discogs or eBay or wherever and buy a copy. Quick, do it before somebody else does. Because this is really good. There was this really small label called Coolidge Records that put out a bunch of stuff. And I managed to get a couple of releases from them. I do have the Beatnik Termites doing a Descendants tribute single called Lineage. And it has Suburban Home and Minute on it. Now, this came with a box of crayons so you could colour in the cover. I've never coloured in the cover. I do have the box of crayons. I don't know why I didn't pull it out when I pulled this out to show you the box of crayons, but maybe I'll put a photo of the crayons here. That label also turned me onto a band called Plough United. Now, this song, Sadie, is fantastic. And if you've never heard this song, I'm pretty sure it's on Bandcamp or YouTube, but look up Sadie by Plough United. This is a fantastic pop punk tune. It just oozes 90s pop punk. It's a really, really good song. Another song that I always put on mixtapes back in the day for everybody that I taped one for. So yeah, this single rules. Coolidge Records was also the label that turned me on to Western because they had a split 7-inch with Plough United. Now, I bought the Plough United obviously because I was buying Plough United stuff, and Western were on here. Now, I did not know who Western were, but I fell in love with them immediately. The song on this set is really cool. It's called I Feel Like Dying. It's better than Young Pennsylvania by a long shot, but I Feel Like Dying is a great tune, and I immediately became, you know, invested in Western and had to buy every single thing they ever did. Now, Western did release a bunch of singles. And here's one here, which is a split with Digger that was released on Hopeless Records. This is 2 of my favourite Western songs. My Favourite Mistake and Mrs. Perfect Girl. Both of them are fantastic. Now, if we're going to talk about Digger, oh my God. Digger are amazing. Such a good band having an ex-member of Western. So, yeah, it's just, oh man, if you liked Western, you're going to like Digger. But if you know who both of these bands are, well, you know, you already know how good they are. So, but this is a great split 7-inch. Sympathy, while usually putting out rock and roll and garage punk stuff, didn't really release a lot of pop punk. But they did release some power pop. And, you know, we've got bands like the Muffs, one of the greatest bands ever. So here's a couple of singles that they did on Sympathy for the Record Industry. And also this band, the Shitbirds, which I got into because they did a song on a Christmas compilation called Happy Birthday Baby Jesus with a song called Christmas Is A-Comin', God Bless You. And I was really into the song. I thought it was fantastic. So I just started buying Shitbird stuff whenever I found it. And this is one of the singles they did on Sympathy for the Record Industry. Good stuff. Sympathy also did a couple of Bad Religion singles. You've got American Jesus and Atomic Garden. Now, Atomic Garden comes on a etched record, so it's one song, and the artwork was done by the Piz. The Piz is an awesome artist. He's done tons of stuff and a lot of gig posters and things like that. His artwork on the front of this is just amazing. Didn't end there, though, because on the front cover of American Jesus, we have Coop's art. Bad Religion really hit it out of the park with their 2 singles in Sympathy with the artwork, so good stuff. And the Dwarves had a couple of records on Sympathy. This is one of them. This is their cover of That's Rocknroll, which is such a good version of it. Such a good version. So, yeah, I love this single. And, yeah, I love the Dwarves. Don't we all? Ringing Ear Records was done by the guy, I believe, from Sinkhole. Here's 2 records from Ringing Ear that I can think of. Both Sinkhole records. And this one is a split with the Queers. So, the Queers actually do a version of Rockaway Beach. And obviously, they do their song Blabbermouth. Now, Sinkhole do a version of I Need Adventure, the G.G. Allin song, when G.G. Allin was doing, like, you know, melodic punk rock, like his early stuff of the first album, which is a great album. Always is, always was, and always shall be, I think it's called. Is the best G.G. Allin record, in my opinion, because I just love that 70s punk sound that he was going for at that time. It's very cool. It's like he'd listened to the Dead Boys and was like, I want to do that. And so, yeah, I love that record. But anyway, the Queers and Sinkhole. I bought this because I loved both bands. And yeah, really good stuff. And here is another Sinkhole record on Ringing Ear Records. Sinkhole Records brings us to our next label, which is Dr. Strange Records. There is also a shop. I've never been there. I don't know why. So on my next USA visit, I will definitely have to go and pay the store a visit. I've heard nothing but great things about it. And see if I can fill in some of the Dr. Strange holes in the discography that I have. So this is Sinkhole doing Tumble Mat, which is a fantastic song. They also turned me onto the Voodoo Glow Skulls. I bought this one because people just started raving about Voodoo Glow Skulls. And they said, it's on Dr. Strange, you're going to love it. So I bought this. And I still think it's a great song, Dogpile. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of ska punk, but this is a good song. And I do like the album as well. Who Is This Is? Is that what it's called? That album on Dr. Strange as well. That's a really good record. So, yeah, Voodoo Glow Skulls. The Boll Weevils. Really, really cool band as well. Love this sort of stuff. Game Face. This song is called A Day in June, and I must say, A Day in June is my favourite Game Face song, and so I'm stoked that it came out as a 7-inch. It's off the album 3 to Get Ready, but yeah, if you don't know this single, buy yourself a copy. I found it for $1 in Amoeba, so I'm sure it's, you know, you'll find it $1 somewhere else as well. But it is such a fantastic song. I think it's one of the greatest songs ever from the 90s pop punk movement. Guttermouth. I used to have the other one called Bulls. I don't know where it's gone. But yeah, I've got this one still, which is Puke. And this is a really cool song in it called Chicken Box. And Guttermouth. People sit on the fence with Guttermouth. Some people love them. Some people absolutely hate them. I like them. And I used to have 2 more records of theirs, but someone offered me stupid money for them, and I sold them when I was broke and I was unemployed. So yeah, I don't have their LPs anymore, but I do still have a couple of singles. And this is one of them. Mandingo, another cool band that released stuff on Doctor Strange. Had a few albums and obviously the singles. And there's a 10-inch as well, I believe. But anyway, really cool band. Check them out if you've never heard Mandingo. This one is a split with Zoinks, who I talked about earlier. And we'll talk about again because they also had this single, Soap Factory, on Doctor Strange Records. This is a band called Brown Lobster Tank. This was a song that was on a mixtape that was given to me, and I immediately liked it and thought, yep, I got to get this. And so yeah, Brown Lobster Tank. Awesome, awesome band. They did do an LP, and on that LP they have a picture of Ron Jeremy, the porn star, like in the middle in the lyrics section. I was in Amoeba Records one time and I had the record in my basket, and I'd never owned the LP. I used to have it on CD. But anyway, I had the LP in my basket and Ron Jeremy walked in browsing or whatever, or whether he was just bored or something, because I didn't actually see him pick up anything. He was just looking around, like walking around or whatever. And I had the record in my basket. I wish I had thought of it at the time, but I should have said, look, Amoeba, do you have a marker I can borrow? And got him to sign the record, because there is a song about Ron Jeremy on that record, and he even does a spoken bit on it where he says it sounds like dinner or something like that. Brown Lobster Tank. Anyway, I didn't get a marker and I didn't get the record signed, and he walked out of the store. And yeah, would have been cool though to have a Brown Lobster Tank record signed by Ron Jeremy. Vermiform Records was turned on to them because my friend in high school bought this record from the Spiral Objective catalogue because he liked the sound of it, and he was really into the, you know, the just full-on punk stuff, like, you know, the real hardcore punk stuff. He bought this because he liked the description of it. Now, when he got it, we listened to it and we were just like, holy shit, this is amazing. So I bought a copy too. And Vermiform Records was the label that it was on, and that was introduced me to Vermiform Records, and I started buying everything that I could find of Born Against. Now, this is not on Vermiform, but it's on Gravity, and Gravity, well, they put out some cool shit too. So we have Young Pioneers, and we have Men's Recovery Project. Now, all of these bands are somehow intertwined through their labels. So, yeah, cool stuff. All of it's cool, and you should buy it all. So, Crackle was a really cool label out of the UK, and Crackle just released so much good stuff. Every single record of Crackle's is good. There is not a bad one in their discography. You can try and find one, but you're wasting your time because they didn't release any bad records. They just released hit after hit after hit, and it's all fantastic. So, I don't have them all, but I do have some. And probably the heavy hitter on that label was a band called Chopper. And this is just 4 of the singles that they released. And these are all on Crackle. And I got into Chopper through Jeremy from Caustic Soda, who put them on that mixtape that he gave me. He put on a song called Porcelain, which is off this, which is fantastic. And then he put on the song Not Perfect, which is off this one. And so, yeah, I fell in love with Chopper straight away and had to have everything. Such a good band. The other heavy hitter on that label, Skimmer. And they just churned out so much good stuff. Like, every single is awesome. And this one, Uncool, was the first song I ever heard of theirs. And from memory, Jeremy from Caustic Soda recorded me this song, and that's what got me into it. He also recorded me this song, Better Than Being Alone. They were the 2 Skimmer songs that he put on the tape for me, and that's what got me into Skimmer. Now, he was a diehard lover of the Crackle label, which worked out in his favour because they put out his record. So this is the Caustic Soda 7-inch, the only vinyl I believe that they ever did. And I got to tell you, this is like one of the greatest pop punk records in Australian music history. So if you've never heard this, you need to do yourself a favour. This is a fantastic record. Every song on here rules. Crocodile God, another fantastic band on Crackle. So there's a couple of singles that they did. Also this band called Dagobah, which is really cool. I like the cover art on that one. It's pretty cool. And of course, they did a J Church record because every label did. One of the best labels from that era was Mutant Pop Records. Mutant Pop Records churned out so much good stuff. Boris the Sprinkler, Frantics, Connie Dung, Everready, Dirt Bike Annie, Ninja 4, Underhand, The Wannabes, Proms, Sicko, Slacker, and After School Special. That's not all of them. That is just a small pile of Mutant Pop Records releases. I think I'm missing 4, but oh my god, they just churned out non-stop amazing records. So if you ever see the look, because they all have the similar thing running across the top, and, you know, they always have this on the back. So the Mutant Pop logo down here. So if you see this stuff, just grab it. Doesn't matter what the band is, just grab it because you're going to fucking love it. I promise one day I'll do a proper video on the entire Mutant Pop discography. I will get there and I will do a video on it. It's just, there's too many of them. Oh, look at that. That's just like a few of them, and that's just a stack. So I'm not going to do that. Not today. Now, here's where we get into probably the biggest pop punk label of the 90s. Lookout Records. Lookout Records released so much good stuff. Like, here's a Queer single. Here's Blatz. The Born Against and Screeching Weasel split. Fantastic. This is one of the best records ever. Funbug. This is awesome. You need this record. The High Fives. This is the very first Lookout release I ever heard. Slappy by Green Day. I love this record. I still think this is one of the best records ever recorded, purely because of the fact that it was what introduced me to Green Day back in 1991 or 92 or whenever it was given to me. And I was just blown away, and I was like, this is amazing. and I need this in my record collection. It was given to me on a cassette tape first, so it was recorded after a Rat Cat EP, and I was blown away by it and immediately hooked. And the guy that taped it for me was Greg Wood from Spiral Objective. He had the very first Rat Cat EP, and I was looking for it, and he taped it for me, and he put that on there as a surprise, just because he thought I might like it if I like Rat Cat. Because if you've ever heard early Rat Cat and you've heard Green Day, there's similarities there. Isocracy, Crimp Shrine. Hey, look at that! I'm wearing a Crimp Shrine shirt. Fancy that. Cringer, like I mentioned before, the Karen EP. 15. What a band. Played Retina. Pinhead Gunpowder. These records rule. That was such a good band. I hope they do some more stuff. I really do. Because, you know, the idea of Pinhead Gunpowder recording stuff is just awesome. Because such a unique sound and unique style of writing songs. Parasites. Pansy Division, who are one of the greatest bands ever. These guys are a lot of fun. If you've never seen Pansy Division live and they're playing in your town, definitely go. You'll have the time of your life. But anyway, Queer to the Core, produced by Steve Albini. And this one, for those about to suck cock, we salute you, which has a song on it called Headbanger. The lead guitars on this was played by Kirk Hammett. True story. He played it under a false name. Operation Ivy. I bought this EP purely because everybody told me I should. Back in, 91 or whenever it was, I bought this. Everybody was raving about Operation Ivy. Everyone at the time that was around Spiral Objective was saying, if you heard Operation Ivy, you've got to get the Operation Ivy records, blah, 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 blah. So I bought it. And like I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of ska punk, but I love this record. This record is fantastic. Here We Go Again is such a good song. Riverdales. They do a really good version of the Barracudas, I Can't Pretend, on this one. Really, really cool. This song, Back to You, by the way, the A-side, is fantastic. What a fantastic Dan Vapid song. And this one, Fun Tonight, so good. With an appearance by Mr. Reverend Norb from Boris the Sprinkler. This is Raoul, another cool record on Lookout. The Yeasty Girls. This is pretty funny. Feminist rap without any drum beats, just the girls rapping. That's it, like a cappella. Pretty cool. Sewer Trout. Scherzo. Sam I Am. Vindictives. I love the artwork on this one. Rocks in my head. Winona Riders. The singer of this band is now singing for the Dead Kennedys. The Shot Downs. Tied to Screeching Weasel. Squirt Gun. Another Squirt Gun. Mr. T Experience. Now this band is awesome. Love the Mr. T Experience. Took me forever to see them, but I finally got to see them at the Lookouting, and it was worth it because they were just amazing. Such a good band. Tilt. I got this signed at the Lookouting because they were playing, and I took my records along. I'm such a nerd. I took my records from Australia to America just to get them all signed by the bands that were playing there. I'm that guy. And the Surrogate Brains, who I did get to see play there as well, and they were fantastic too. I saw them twice actually. They played not only the Lookouting, but they also did a really small club show with Dr. Frank from the Mr. T Experience doing solo. Now we've just got some miscellaneous ones from the whole era, but they are important, like this band Walker that were released on Harmless Records. Love Walker so much. They also did an album called Actually Being Lonely Is Not That Bad, and if you can find that LP, buy it. Seriously, it is possibly one of the greatest pop punk records ever recorded by any band ever in the history of recording pop punk records. That is not a lie, that's a fact. Okay? It's not even an opinion anymore, it's fact. Just trust me on this one, that album rules. Sicko, released on Empty. I love Sicko, really, really good band. Their albums are fantastic, but yeah, here's a single that was released on Empty. Another great label. This band, the Oxymorons, I know nothing about this band except for this one 7-inch, and I've got to tell you, this 7-inch rules. Absolutely rules. If you've never heard it, track it down, buy it. It's virtually costs nothing on Discogs. Just trust me, the song on Unearthing Your Grave will blow your mind. And then also they do a cover of Little Red Corvette by Prince, which is really good too. You need this. Seriously, I can't rave about this record enough. You really need this record. One Man Running, another $3 record that I bought and absolutely love. This is a fantastic record. 6 tracks, all really, really good. Here by the Shore is such a good song, and so is Algebra, blah, blah, blah. I could go on and on. This record is awesome. 30 Amp Fuse. The song Sorry is one of the greatest songs ever recorded. It was always on mixtapes when I gave them to people because I got given it on that same mixtape from Jeremy. Jeremy, you're getting a lot of fucking props in this, man. So I hope you're having fun in Japan. But yeah, you are the source for a lot of these records for me, and I really appreciate that. But this record is awesome. 500 copies. I'm sure it doesn't cost anything to buy, like $1 or something like that. But yeah, you need it. Sorry is such a good song. I can't even remember what the B-side songs are like. All I know is how good Sorry is, and it's worth it for that alone. Sludgeworth. Awesome, awesome band. These are the 2 singles that they did, and both of them need to be bought by you. Like, seriously, this song, the B-side to this, You and I, that's a song for couples, man. And I put that on every mixtape I ever gave anybody ever. So, yeah, it's an amazing song. Really, really is an amazing song. I think I even wrote to Dan Vapid once and told him I did that. And he said, thank you. So, pretty cool. Zoinks and No Empathy doing a split 7-inch on Johann's Face Records. Always loved this logo. How cool is this logo? So good. Just Add Water. Another cool label that put out a bunch of cool comps, and also this awesome 7-inch by the Nobodies, who are a great band and released a bunch of different stuff. Bulge Records, run by Mr. Reverend Norb from Boris the Sprinkler. Here's 3 records on Bulge, just because they were the first 3 that I grabbed. If you don't know Boris the Sprinkler, you are doing yourself a great disservice. Possibly one of the greatest Ramones core punk rock bands ever. They release so much stuff, and all of it is good. There is not a single dud track among the entire discography of Boris the Sprinkler. And they do amazing cover tunes as well. So, yeah, you need these records. All of them. Everything they've ever done, you need it. Well, we couldn't really talk about 90s pop punk without mentioning Blink-182. Here's 2 7-inches that I have of theirs on grilled cheese. I did have the first split when they were called Blink. And some fucking asshole stole it from me. I don't know who it was, and I doubt I'll ever find out who did it. Don't fucking steal people's records. But anyway, yeah, these 2 singles are awesome, and this one especially. The 3 of the best Blink songs are on this 7-inch. Couple to go. This split 7-inch with Big Drill Car and Chemical People. I've talked about this before. Big Drill Car do the best version of Surrender by Cheap Trick you'll ever hear, and Chemical People do a fantastic version of Getaway by Kiss. Asia Man Records. You couldn't really go through the 90s without talking about Asia Man Records, and of course their involvement with Alkaline Trio. This is the very first Alkaline Trio record I ever heard, For Your Lungs Only, and it got me hooked on them straight away. And I believe this blew up for them big time, because once this came out, everybody was into Alkaline Trio. And so when their first album came out, god damn it, it was just like, wow, you know, I can't believe this record exists. But yeah, this is their second 7-inch, and it is fantastic. The last single I want to talk about today is by the Get Up Kids. This was the single that turned me onto the Get Up Kids. I didn't know who they were before this, but I bought it because there was a bit of hype about this single, and both of the songs on this single are fantastic, and I actually still believe these are the best 2 Get Up Kids songs ever recorded. The songs are called A Newfound Interest in Massachusetts and my favourite song of theirs, On the Wagon. Now, these songs just totally rule. And I know that people are give or take on the Get Up Kids. I've heard a lot of people just say they can't listen to them, they don't like it, whatever. But these songs, man, just give these ones a go, please. They're really, really good. Yeah, my 2 favourite Get Up Kids songs. I will always favour these over everything else they've done. Even though I like some of the other albums, but these ones, man, so good. But anyway, thank you so much for walking down 90s pop punk lane with me today. I've had a blast going through these records. I've been listening to this sort of stuff all week, and I've been having a good time doing it, and I wanted to share it with you today. So if you are new to 90s pop punk, then I hope this video has helped you think about some of the records that you should go and buy if you see them around. And a lot of them will be cheap. I don't expect a lot of these records are going to be really, really expensive. So, you know, if you see them around, especially if you go to Amoeba, like Amoeba has a lot of this stuff for like $1 or $2. So when you're in there, just go through those 45s and just, you know, pull out stuff and just buy it, you know, because what's $1 or $2? I mean, yeah, granted, you know, money's tight for a lot of people, but if you're record shopping anyway, take the gamble. Well, anyway, thank you so much for watching once again. I will be back again with another video soon on cool records and whatnot. But in the meantime, look after yourselves, take care of each other. All right? And I will see you soon. Bye-bye.